a melancholy demeanor, and a slender figure. She was huddled in the corner of the cage. When Perseus came over, she looked up at him timidly and then hurriedly lowered her head. "Young master, you wish to buy her?" The shopkeeper immediately greeted him with a beaming smile. "I want to buy a demi-human girl with at least second-tier strength, clean body, and no diseases." "Price is not a problem," Perseus smiled. "But if the goods are not as described, you know the rules." "Of course," the shopkeeper said. "I've been running this shop for over 10 years, and I've always done business with a clear conscience. I'll never make a penny of dirty money. Based on your requirements, there are 3 slaves available for sale that can meet your needs." The shopkeeper led Perseus around the shop and explained the situation of the 3 slaves to him. A dog-eared girl, a cow girl, and a racehorse girl. One is 550, one is 610, and one is 580. All 3 women were reasonably attractive, but their prices exceeded his expectations. The dog-eared girl is great in every way, but he already has Luna, so it feels a bit repetitive. The cowgirl's flaw was that she didn't live up to her name at all, and her size disappointed him greatly. As for cows, he had a more authentic one. The racehorse girl is great in every way, except for her unruly gaze. He's in a hurry to test the system right now, and doesn't have time to adjust it slowly. After comparing all the options, he had no choice but to choose the cowgirl. Although it's said that these demi-humans gain a significant boost in strength if they get pregnant, this one is only a mere E-cup, which is a disgrace to the dairy cow world. Even if she were to improve by 2 or 3 levels, she would still only be at Winnie's level, which is truly regrettable. Perseus's heart skipped a beat, and he pointed to the cat-eared girl. "What about that one?" "Her." The shopkeeper looked over. "She doesn't meet your requirements. She doesn't have second-tier strength." "What rank is she?" "I don't know. It seems there was no resistance when we captured her. She probably didn't even have first-tier strength." Perseus examined her closely. Although the shopkeeper said so, he had a gut feeling that this cat-eared girl was worth more than they had estimated. He could tell just by looking at his face. This cat-eared girl is the prettiest among all the animal-eared girls, even though her gloomy and haggard expression detract from her overall beauty. "How much does she cost?" Perseus decided to take a gamble. "Well," the shopkeeper thought for a moment. "Although she's not a powerful being, she's quite good-looking and has a pure body. Usually, these kinds of demi-human girls cost around 150 gold coins, but she's been crying ever since she arrived. I'm afraid I can't support her. If you're not afraid of taking the risk, I'm willing to give you a 50% discount." 50% off? Hee hee, this is an exceptional special price. If she really can't be supported in the future, please don't hold us responsible, the shop owner chuckled. If she didn't always have such a long face, which not only affects my mood but also makes some customers feel unlucky, I would never dare to sell her like this. At this price, you really can't go wrong or be cheated. Perseus had been somewhat hesitant, but now he had no reason to refuse. After payment and signing the contract, the shop owner invited a slave trainer who oversaw the slave market to imprint his slave mark on the cat-eared girl. Acquired slave, Mimi. Quality, grade A. Current compliance level, 20. Perseus shuddered. The instant the system notification sound appeared in his mind, a surge of power inexplicably entered him, though this power was very limited. He couldn't quite say what level it was, but it didn't matter. He also didn't know what level of quality this was. He had only ever had one slave before, Ivisa, whose quality wasn't even displayed, so it couldn't be used as a reference. But since it's an A-grade item, it must be something extraordinary. He must have struck gold, right? His obedience rating started with a good 20 points, and he was worried that all slaves would have to start from scratch like Ivisa. "Young master, should we send her to the dominatrix?" "I know the best dominatrix in Eagle Peak City, a woman," the shopkeeper asked with a smile. "Does she need some kind of training?" That's true." The shop owner opened the cage, and the cat-eared girl, already knowing what she was about to go through, curled up into an even smaller ball. The shop owner wanted to yell at her, but hesitated to make any big moves because she was now Perseus's private property. "In my opinion, we should just send her, cage and all, to your residence. She's timid, and I'm worried she'll get frightened and run away," the shopkeeper said earnestly. "Can that trainer you mentioned remove the slave mark?" Perseus asked. "Of course. But why are you asking this? Do you want to remove her slave seal?" "But—" Perseus slammed the 10 gold coins onto the counter, his brow furrowing slightly. The shop owner immediately replied respectfully with a smile. "Yes. Yes." The shopkeeper sent someone to take him and the cat-eared girl to the best slave-taming workshop in Eagle Peak City by carriage. Many people can plant the slave seal, but very few can undo it. Unless one is a 7th rank or higher dark mage, one must pay a terrible price to gain the ability to break free from the slave seal. Not many people are willing to pay this price. You can tell by looking at the price. The breeding stamp was merely an additional service offered when purchasing slaves. It was free. However, removing the enslavement seal costs a full 200 gold coins, which is more expensive than the price of buying the slave. Perseus paid without hesitation. During the long wait, the slave mark on the cat-eared girl's neck was gradually erased until it disappeared completely. In his mind, all information about the girl was erased, along with the abilities she possessed. Perseus's heart sank to the bottom. Chapter 179, Mixed Feelings. Just as I expected. Perseus stood there, stunned, unable to recover for a long time. He had actually foreseen this outcome, but he had always held onto a sliver of hope, thinking that this damn system couldn't be that much worse. It really was a total ripoff. Perseus was now so enraged that he wanted to kill someone. For the first time, his mind was filled with all sorts of violent and vicious thoughts, and he was so eager to see blood that his body was trembling slightly. It was inevitable that Ivisa would break through to the 7th rank. She clearly didn't like that ugly slave mark, and once she used magic to remove it, he would be instantly reduced to his original form. This thing that made him angry and desperate was about to become reality from fear. Then, my lord, the slave mark has been removed as you instructed, the slave trainer said. Perseus snapped out of his daze and chuckled softly. You can go out first and lend me this training room for a while. I can add 10 more gold coins later. Please make yourself at home. The slave trainer bowed slightly and left the training room. After the door closed, Perseus looked at the cat-eared girl named Mimi. The girl's face had been even more ashen and pale than as before, and her eyes were filled with panic and fear when she looked at him. But now she looked puzzled, shrinking back and cautiously watching him, her eyes sparkling with curiosity and worry. Perseus was in a very bad mood. In any case, the results of the experiment were out, and he already knew what he wanted to know. There was no point in keeping the girl around any longer. Perseus reached into his pocket and extended his hand toward her. Mimi was so startled that she took 2 steps back, her ears perked up as much as they could. Mimi was stunned again when she saw what he was holding. This is your certificate of slavery and the legal document that holds you in custody, Perseus asked. You should know what these are, right? Mimi looked surprised and hesitant, then nodded cautiously, her voice very soft. You want to give this to me? Yes, don't you want it? Perseus chuckled. This is something every slave dreams of. The mark of slavery on you has been removed. Just throw these 2 pieces of paper into the furnace, and you will be free. Why did you do this? Mimi asked awkwardly. It's strange. Of course it's strange. No one with a sound mind would do such a thing. Don't ask so many questions. Perseus frowned slightly. I have something urgent to attend to, and don't want to keep you as a burden by my side. I'll take you out in a bit and give you some money. You can go wherever you want. I hope you can be smart and not get caught by those people again. Of course, even if you do get caught, it's none of my business. Mimi clasped her hands together, lowered her head, and remained silent. Perseus used fire magic to burn the 2 pieces of paper to ashes, and the sudden flash of flame startled Mimi. Don't want to leave? How about I sell you back? Perseus clapped his hands and asked seriously. No. Mimi cried out in panic. Then come with me. I'll buy you some new clothes so you don't look like a runaway slave. And with the money, you can go wherever you want. Perseus was getting impatient. Mimi shook her head. You don't actually want to take you home, do you? Perseus frowned. Don't even think about it. I've already done more than enough by letting you go. Don't push your luck, understand? I have no home anymore, Mimi whispered. I was driven out by the people of my tribe, and then captured by those bad guys. Perseus stared speechlessly at the ceiling. This type was the most troublesome. Why did your tribe drive you away? He asked casually. Because they said I was a bad omen. Mimi's eyes welled up with tears. When my father was still alive, they didn't dare to drive me away, but my father died. An ominous sign? Perseus asked, somewhat puzzled. He looked the girl up and down, but didn't sense anything ominous about her. Although the chest area is a bit barren, that's part of the charm. Mimi suddenly blushed and stammered. On my back. On your back. She hesitated for a moment, then turned around and lifted her clothes. Perseus saw it clearly and was somewhat surprised. On the girl's fair back, there was a huge black pattern that almost covered half of her back. It doesn't look like a birthmark. Although the pattern didn't look very regular, and he didn't know what it meant, he wasn't sure if it was just his imagination, but when he saw it, his feelings became very strange. Suddenly, I had an urge to kill everyone in the world. He was afraid that if he continued watching, his mind would be warped, so he quickly turned his head to the side. That's enough. Put the clothes down, Perseus said. Mimi quickly put down her clothes, turned around, and her little face was so red it looked like it was about to bleed. Because of this strange pattern, Perseus had to rethink how to place the girl. He would definitely not let her leave alone again. Her dazed, foolish, timid, and cowardly appearance makes her seem like a fat sheep to some guys, someone who would probably be devoured before she even leaves Eagle Peak City. He originally didn't care about these things. Whether she could live a good life depended entirely on her luck. But having seen this pattern, he was convinced that she had something special about her. It's either a blessing or a curse. In short, it's worth waiting and seeing for a while longer. Are you homeless and have nowhere to go? Perseus asked. Mimi nodded. Then you can stay with me for now, Perseus said. I will provide you with food and clothing, a place to live, and find you a home in the future, but these things will definitely not be free. Do you understand? Mimi smiled and nodded. I could do laundry, cook, clean the house. I can also pick berries and hunt wild game. Anything else? Perseus asked deliberately. What else? Mimi asked, puzzled. That slave trader probably wasn't lying. This girl is very innocent. Perhaps it's a bit too innocent. Would you like to come with me? Perseus asked. Willing. Why? Because you are a good person. Mimi looked at him, a smile appearing on her face. A good person? Once I get her in a bed, she might not think that way anymore. However, he dare not make a move until he figured out what the pattern actually was. Although it has looked quite delicious. Come with me. Perseus walked out of the training room. Mimi ran over and took his hand. Perseus turned to look at her. Mimi laughed foolishly. After paying, Perseus took Mimi to the nearest clothing store and bought her several conservative and appropriate outfits, just to perfectly cover up the pattern. Then, he took Mimi back to the Earl's mansion. Ivisa, Carol, Katie, and Winnie watched him silently, while Mimi, clinging to his hand with a dazed expression, wore different expressions. Where did you get this from? Give it back right now. Do you want to go to jail? Winnie panicked. Scumbag, Carol exclaimed with disdain. He's abducted another woman. Ivisa and Katie remained expressionless and silent. I bought her, Perseus said truthfully. Winnie was taken aback. She quickly stepped forward and looked closely at Mimi's fair and smooth neck. Then she looked at him with a puzzled expression. Was the slave mark imprinted in a different location? You scoundrel, Carol said with disdain. Who says that buying slaves necessarily requires stamping them with slave seals? But isn't this common sense? I told her to run, but she wouldn't. She insisted on following me. Is that common sense? Perseus was too lazy to even laugh. He pushed Mimi towards Winnie. I'm handing her over to you. Take her out to eat, and don't touch her clothes. Remember that. Winnie was startled and looked aggrieved. Why are you being so fierce? Then did you remember it? Perseus asked, his face grim. I've got it. Winnie was really frightened this time. Mimi, go with this person. If she touches your clothes, tell that woman to chop her up. Perseus said gently. Mimi suddenly paused. How did you know my name is Mimi? Didn't you just tell me? Have you forgotten? Perseus said without changing his expression. Oh. Mimi nodded. Perseus chuckled and ruffled her hair before walking over and taking Ivisa's hand as they headed back to their room. After the two sat down side by side on the bed, Perseus observed Ivisa's expression and smiled slightly. About Mimi. You don't need to explain anything to me. I don't mind if you buy slaves, Ivisa said expressionlessly. I was wondering why you've been clamoring to buy them for so long, and you're only doing it now. It just so happened that I suddenly ended up in the slave market, and I saw her and felt a connection with her, and also felt sorry for her, so I bought her. Perseus said. Oh, I will set her free when she is able to live independently. Oh, why did you say that word? If you have any opinions, you can speak up, Perseus said. I have no objection, Ivisa said, then asked, why doesn't she use the slave mark? As expected, she harbored resentment towards the slave seal. Because I never intended to treat her as a slave, and of course, I certainly wouldn't treat you as a slave. Perseus smiled cautiously. It's just that your situation is special. That dog emperor has been watching you closely. Without this thing to restrain you, he wouldn't believe that I can control you, nor would he let you be taken away by someone else. After a while, Ivisa nodded gently. If one day we go to a place he can't see, will you remove my enslavement mark? She asked earnestly. I'd be happy to do that, because I don't want you to be tied down by anything.